My brother talked my best friend, the girl I'd been in love with for years, into believing I'd never make a move. He did that just so he could swoop in and date her himself. I ended up blocking both of them and tried to move on with my life. But then, out of nowhere, 6 months later, I got an emergency call from the hospital. She needed me. I was 22 the day I showed up with a bouquet of sunflowers, ready to finally tell my best friend how I felt about her. I'd been in love with Jules since we were kids. But when she opened the door, she was wearing my brother's hoodie, his oversized anime hoodie I had specially ordered for him last year, and she smiled at me like I wasn't standing there with a heart that had belonged to her since we were 13. Jules wasn't just a crush, she had been my best friend for half my life. The kind of girl who always had snacks in her backpack but never remembered to bring a pencil to class. We first met in 7th grade. She tripped over my backpack in the hallway, landed hard, and scraped her knees. I reached out and helped her up. She called me an idiot for leaving my bag in the middle of the walkway, then casually asked if I wanted to skip gym class with her. That was the beginning. From that moment on, we were attached at the hip. We had countless late-night FaceTime calls, summer movie marathons, and deep talks while sitting on her roof, convinced the rest of the world didn't exist. We both dated other people over the years, but nothing ever really stuck. It always felt like no one else could quite see us the way we saw each other. She even joked once that if we were both still single at 30, we'd just marry each other. I laughed at the time, but that little promise stayed with me. My older brother Eli knew exactly how I felt about her. I told him over and over again. He always brushed it off like I was being dramatic. Said stuff like, "If you haven't hooked up by now, she's not into you." Or, "You're just confusing friendship for love." But I knew better. I saw the way her eyes lit up when I made her laugh. I was the first person she called when everything in her life went sideways. So when Jules finally ended things with her long-term boyfriend, I told Eli I was finally going to confess everything. I even admitted I was nervous but felt ready. He gave me this weird look I couldn't read, then clapped me on the back and said, "Go for it." I picked out sunflowers because they were her favorite, and I even wore the one decent suit I owned. I rehearsed my speech the entire drive over. I knew it wouldn't come out perfect, but I wanted it to be real. Honest. When I turned onto her street, I noticed Eli's car in her driveway. At first, I thought maybe he was just dropping something off. Maybe it was nothing. I sat there in my car for almost 10 minutes, holding the flowers in my lap and trying to work up the nerve to get out. Then the porch light flicked on. Jules came outside barefoot, hair still damp from a shower. She was wearing that big hoodie, Eli's hoodie, and picked up a bag of takeout sitting by the door. Then she laughed. That laugh I used to crave hearing again. Only this time, she laughed back into the house, like someone inside was waiting for her. I didn't get out. I didn't ring the bell. I didn't say anything at all. I just left the flowers on her doorstep like some kind of ghost and drove off. About an hour later, I got a text. That was sweet. He loved them. She didn't say Eli's name. She didn't need to. My stomach dropped, and I never replied. I didn't sleep that night. Or the night after that. When I finally saw Eli again, I came right out and asked if he was seeing her. He just shrugged, like it was no big deal, and said, "You never told her how you felt, man. What did you expect?" He said it like it was the most casual thing in the world. Like none of it mattered. I told him I was going to tell her. That night was supposed to be the night. He just laughed and said, "Guess you were too slow." And the worst part? I still tried to be normal with her. Even after she started officially dating Eli, I stuck around. Helped her rewrite her resume. Gave her rides to the DMV. Listened to her vent about work like nothing had changed. I kept telling myself it was okay. That maybe she just wasn't meant to be mine. Then one night, we had this group dinner at her apartment. She sat next to Eli, leaned into him like it was nothing. At one point, Eli got up to use the bathroom, and Jules turned to me. "You're the only person who really understands me," she said. "I need your help writing a birthday speech for Eli." I smiled. But something inside me cracked wide open. Later that night, while we were cleaning up, I noticed a folded note tucked in with a pile of junk mail, and I saw my name written on it. Jules didn't notice me picking it up. Inside, the note read, "I think I've been in love with you all along. I'm just scared. I don't want to lose what we have." It was dated the day before I had shown up with the flowers. I sat there just staring at it for what felt like forever. I don't even remember breathing. Then, I folded it back up and quietly put it where I found it. I didn't say a word. She had loved me. She really had. But in the end, she still chose my brother. That was 6 months ago. I've been doing better. Or at least I thought I was. Then, last night, I got a message from an unknown number. It said, "I miss you. I think about you every day." I didn't respond. But I didn't delete it either. A little while later, one of my friends texted me to say that Jules and Eli had broken up. I just sat there staring at my phone for an hour. Typed out a few replies. Deleted every single one. I finally crawled into bed around 3 in the morning, still torn up over what to do. When I woke up, there were 3 more messages from that same number. I didn't need to guess who it was. It was Jules. She kept apologizing, kept telling me how much she missed me. Still, I said nothing. I went to work like everything was normal. I'm a graphic designer at a small marketing firm, nothing glamorous, but it keeps the lights on. I couldn't concentrate on anything. My boss, Willie, noticed and asked if I was okay. I just told him I hadn't slept much. He didn't push. After work, I hit the gym, hoping a workout might clear my head. I was halfway through when I saw Eli across the room. We hadn't spoken since I blocked him. We locked eyes for a moment. Then he started walking toward me. Part of me wanted to leave right then and there. "Hey," he said, like everything was normal. Like he hadn't just blown up my world. I gave him a nod and kept lifting. He hovered awkwardly, then finally said, "Jules and I broke up." "I heard," I replied, eyes straight ahead. "She's been asking about you," he added. "Says you won't answer her texts." I set the weights down and grabbed my towel. "Not my problem." As I turned to walk away, he grabbed my arm. "Look, I know I messed up," he said. "But she really misses you." I pulled my arm free. "You both made your choice." Then I walked out, never looking back. When I got to my car, I had 5 more messages from Jules waiting on my phone. She asked if we could grab coffee. Said she needed to talk, said it was important. Still, I didn't answer. That night, sleep avoided me like it had so many nights before. My mind kept drifting back to that letter I found. The one she never meant for me to see. The one that said she loved me but was afraid. And yet, she ran straight to Eli after that. I couldn't make sense of it, no matter how many times I turned it over in my head. Then, sometime after midnight, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I checked the peephole, and there she was, Jules, arms wrapped around herself, standing in the cold like it might swallow her whole. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. I hesitated. A big part of me wanted to just ignore it. But some other part, the same part that still held out hope, got the better of me. When I opened the door, my voice came out rough. "What are you doing here?" She looked up at me with those familiar eyes that used to wreck me. "You wouldn't respond to my messages." I didn't step aside. "It's midnight, Jules." "I know," she said, voice low. "I'm sorry. I really need to talk to you." I let out a long breath and moved aside. She walked in, her eyes flicking around the place. It was new. I'd moved right after everything happened. Needed a clean slate. "Nice place," she said, like she was trying to make it feel normal. I didn't answer. Just folded my arms and waited. She sat herself down on the couch like she still belonged there. Classic Jules. Always making herself at home, even in spaces she'd left behind. I stayed standing. "So talk." She looked up. "Eli and I broke up." "I know. I made a mistake," she said softly. "A huge one." I didn't say anything. I'd replayed this exact conversation in my head so many times I'd lost count, her showing up, admitting she was wrong, saying she should have chosen me. But now that it was happening, I didn't feel what I thought I would. No relief. No satisfaction. Just a kind of dull, tired emptiness. "Did you mean it?" I finally asked. "The note. Did you really mean what you wrote?" At first, she looked confused. Then her eyes widened. "You found that?" I nodded. "Yes. I meant every word," she said. "I was going to give it to you that night. But then Eli showed up and..." "And what?" I finally sat, but not beside her. I took the chair across from the couch, needing that distance. He told me how you felt, she said. Told me you'd been in love with me for years but didn't have the nerve to say it. Said you'd probably never do anything about it. My jaw tensed. And that was enough to run to him. I got scared, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I thought about what would happen if you and I tried, and it didn't work. I couldn't stand the thought of losing you completely. So kissing my brother felt safer? I let out a bitter laugh. You pick safe. She flinched at that. I know how it sounds. Do you? I shot back. Because to me, it sounds like you knew exactly how I felt. You knew how you felt. And you still chose him. She stared down at her hands, ashamed. I messed up. I know I did. But I'm here now. I stood up and started pacing the room, the wood floor creaking under each step. The whole thing felt surreal. After 6 months of silence, here she was, sitting on my couch like she still had a place in my life. Why now, Jules? I asked, not looking at her. Why tonight? Why come back? She rubbed at her eyes, smearing her mascara a little. Because I miss you. Every day. And Eli, he wasn't you. That last part caught in her throat. I stopped pacing. My hands clenched at my sides. You miss me? I said, my voice harder than I meant. That's what you came here to say? You miss me? She stood up too, defensive now, shoulders squaring, chin rising. I'd seen this before. Jules, when she was backed into a corner, always stood taller, talked faster. I tried to reach out. I called. I texted. You blocked me. After you chose him. I ran both hands through my hair, tugging at the roots. After I stood on your porch with flowers in my hand and saw you wearing his sweatshirt. Her eyes filled again. She stepped toward me. I smelled her perfume, vanilla and something warmer. Familiar. Comforting. Dangerous. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. I stepped back, needing space between us again. No, Jules. This wasn't a missed call or forgetting a birthday. You knew. You knew what I felt. And you felt it too. And still, you went with him. She was crying now, and not the kind of cry meant to get sympathy. Real tears. Messy, gut-level pain. I was confused, she whispered. I was scared. And I wasn't? I snapped. You think it wasn't terrifying for me too? But I was ready to risk it. You weren't. There was silence, thick and tense. Then she asked, Can we meet up tomorrow? For coffee? Talk this out properly? Everything in me wanted to say no. But there was that other part of me, the part that still remembered her tripping over my backpack in 7th grade and calling me an idiot. The part that never really stopped loving her. Fine, I said, voice low. Coffee. That's it. She gave a tiny nod, smiling through the tears. There was hope in her face again, and I hated that a piece of me didn't want to crush it. After she left, sleep was out of the question. My bed felt both too hot and freezing cold. I kept going over everything, the letter, the hoodie, her smile when she stepped onto the porch. My mind played it on a loop. By the time morning rolled around, I was a wreck. I thought about canceling, about just not showing up. But something, maybe habit, maybe hope, pulled me there anyway. We met at our usual cafe, the one halfway between our places. Chipped blue mugs, crooked picture frames, the barista who still remembered our orders even after all this time. I got there early and grabbed a seat in the back, away from the windows. She showed up 10 minutes late. Which, for Jules, was basically early. Hey, she said, sliding into the chair across from me. Her face looked a little better. Less puffy. Hair pulled back loose, a few pieces falling out and framing her face like always. Hey, I said, sipping my black coffee. She ordered her usual complicated latte. And then, silence. We'd never run out of things to say before. But now, there was this huge, empty space between us. Finally, she fiddled with her napkin and said, So, how've you been? I almost laughed. Not a funny laugh. The kind that hurts on its way out. How have I been? I echoed. After my brother and best friend got together behind my back? Living the dream, Jules. Really? She winced, her shoulders folding in a little. I deserve that. Yeah, you do. I took a long sip of my coffee. Bitter, perfectly fitting. Why are we really here, Jules? She looked down at her cup, stirring the melting whipped cream with her straw, buying time. I told you, she said. I miss you. I made a mistake. With Eli? Or with me? I leaned forward, sharp, pressing. She didn't flinch. Both. She reached across the table like she was going to touch my hand. I pulled back before she could. Her fingers hovered in the empty space, then slowly retreated. Eli and I, it was never right. We fought constantly. He's not you. I leaned back, the chair creaking under me. So now I'm what? The consolation prize? The backup plan because that didn't work out? No, she said quickly, her eyes wide, stung. It's not like that. Isn't it? I asked, voice low. You've been thinking about me this whole time, huh? She nodded. About us. About what could have been. While you were with my brother. The words dropped like a lead weight between us. She opened her mouth but didn't speak. I frowned and paused with my coffee halfway to my lips. What? She hesitated, eyes avoiding mine. I was wondering if you and Eli still talk. I set the cup down slowly. The question was off. Too casual. Too rehearsed. No. I blocked him too, remember? I said carefully. Haven't spoken to him since that night. She nodded too quickly. Right. Of course. I need closure, you know? With both of you. And there it was. The real reason for this little reunion. It landed like a punch I should have seen coming. You don't miss me, I said, my voice flat. You miss being chosen. Her face twisted in panic. What? No, that's not. You're not here because you want me, I said, standing now, my chair scraping against the floor. You're here because Eli left, and you don't want to be alone. That's not fair, she cried, her voice cracking. Her mascara was already beginning to smudge. I do miss you. I do care about you. Maybe you do, I said, reaching into my wallet, dropping more than enough cash on the table. But not in the way I need. Not anymore. I walked out without looking back. This time, she was the one left staring at a door that never opened. The irony didn't escape me. I drove aimlessly for hours after that. The radio murmured low in the background, but I wasn't listening. My thoughts were loud enough. I ended up at the beach. Just sat there in my car, staring at the waves. They crashed and receded like clockwork, steady, mindless, comforting. My phone buzzed every few minutes. Jules. Again and again. I didn't read the messages. I didn't need to. I already knew what they'd say. By the time the sun started to dip toward the water, I finally drove home. And there he was, Eli. Sitting on my doorstep like some guilt-ridden stray, hunched over his phone. Perfect. He looked up as I pulled in. His face was a mess of guilt and something like resolve. What do you want? I asked, slamming the car door harder than necessary. He stood and shoved his hands in his pockets. Jules called me. She was upset. And I wanted to check on you. I laughed, dry and humorless. Now you care if I'm okay? That's rich. I brushed past him to unlock the door, the key sticking just like it always did. He followed me inside without asking. Boundaries, clearly, weren't our family's strong suit. The living room still held traces of Jules, glass of water on the table, couch cushions pressed in from where she sat. Like she hadn't really left. Look, Eli said, hovering near the door. I know I screwed up. But Jules and I, whatever that was, it's over. I turned to face him, studying his face. So familiar, so different. Why are you telling me this? Because she loves you, he said. She always has. He raked a hand through his hair. Same nervous tick I have. Weird how that made me angrier. No, I said. She loves the idea of me. The fallback. The safety net. That's not true, he said. She was wrecked when you cut her off. She talked about you constantly. While dating you. I shot back sharp. That must have been fun. He had the decency to look embarrassed, eyes falling to the floor. It wasn't, he said. That's why we ended. She couldn't let you go. I didn't know what to believe anymore. I felt unsteady, Like the floor might give out from under me. Just go, Eli, I said finally. I'm tired. He nodded and moved toward the door. She's at Angela's, he said before leaving. If you change your mind. Angela. Jules' college roommate. Still close. Indie films and overpriced craft beer. Of course. I said nothing. Just shut the door behind him and collapsed on the couch. Same place Jules sat the night before. The next morning, Saturday, text again. From Jules. From Eli. I ignored them all. I ran instead. Hard. Further than usual. Trying to sweat out the confusion, the anger, the ache. When I got back, winded and soaked with sweat, there was a package on my doorstep. No name. No return address. I opened it slowly, expecting. I don't even know what. Inside was a photo album. Our photo album. We started it in high school. Something dumb and sentimental we swore we'd keep adding to every year. I thought she kept it. I sat on the front step and flipped through it. Prom, different dates, but somehow always next to each other in every photo. Graduation, caps crooked, arms around each other, laughing. Road trips in college. That one New Year's Eve party. Her 21st birthday, me holding her hair back over a dorm toilet at 3 a.m. My dad's funeral, 3 days straight she didn't leave my side. Brought food I didn't touch. Told me jokes I didn't laugh at. At the very end, a new photo. One I'd never seen. Me. On her porch. 6 months ago. Sunflowers in hand. She took it from inside, before she opened the door. I looked so damn hopeful. So nervous. So in love. The sunflowers were a pop of yellow in the blue twilight. And underneath, in her handwriting. The moment I made the biggest mistake of my life. I closed the album and set it beside me. I wasn't about to let her pull my strings again. She made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. Still, I couldn't shake the image, my own face in the mirror, staring back with that stupid hope that was about to get crushed. I spent the whole weekend dodging my phone like it had teeth. By Monday, the messages stopped coming. So I threw myself into work, trying to feel normal again. Willie handed me a new project, and honestly it was a relief. Coding made sense. It had structure. Unlike the mess of feelings and relationships. Then Wednesday rolled around, and I bumped into Angela at the grocery store. She acted surprised, like it was just some crazy coincidence, but I wasn't buying it. This was Jules' favorite place to shop, even though it was a solid 20-minute drive from her place. Angela wasn't just picking up groceries, this was recon. Her so-called casual shopping looked more like she was scouting enemy territory. "Hey, how are you?" she said, planting her cart square in front of mine in the cereal aisle like it was part of a strategy. "Fine," I said, trying to edge past her. "My cart was halfway full of your typical bachelor survival kit." "She's a mess," Angela said bluntly. "Not eating, not sleeping." I tightened my grip on the cart handle and sighed. "That's not my problem anymore." Angela crossed her arms, her bracelets clinking together. "She screwed up big time. But she still loves you. She's got a weird way of showing it." I muttered, trying to keep my voice even, but I couldn't quite keep the pain out. "I'm not trying to defend what she did," she said. "It was messed up. But I've known Jules a long time, and I've never seen her like this." She didn't seem like her usual sarcastic self. For once, she actually looked worried. I grabbed a box of cereal at random, just to have something to do with my hands. "What do you want from me, Angela?" "Just talk to her," she said. "Really talk. That's all." She finally stepped aside, and I tossed the cereal into my cart. "I'll think about it." But I didn't really think about it. Or at least, I tried not to. Still, that night, I found myself flipping through old photos on my phone. There we were at the state fair, Jules with cotton candy tangled in her hair. Another one, her head on my shoulder, fast asleep during movie night. Her peaceful face. That ridiculous look she made when she was trying not to laugh, nose scrunched, eyes squinting. I missed her. Not just the idea of dating her, but the friendship. The dumb jokes. The way she always seemed to read my mind. 6 years of friendship, gone in a flash over one bad call. The thought sat like a brick in my chest. Then the next day, a call came in from a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something about the local area code made me pick up. "Hello? Is this Marcus?" A woman's voice, polite, a little rushed. "Yeah. Who's this?" "This is Beverly from Memorial Hospital. You're listed as Jules Parker's emergency contact." My stomach dropped. A cold panic crept in. "What happened? Is she okay?" "She was in a car accident. Nothing critical, but she's asking for you." I didn't even think. "I'm on my way." I drove like I was in a trance. Ran a yellow light, didn't even notice. The anger, the heartbreak, it was still in there. But in that moment, none of it mattered. Jules was hurt. She needed me. That was all it took. The hospital parking lot was jam-packed. I circled twice before finding a spot. When I finally got to her room, she was sitting up in bed, looking pale but alert. She had a bandage across her forehead, one arm in a sling. The hospital gown hung off her like it didn't fit, making her look even smaller. "You came," she said, sounding surprised, her voice raspy. "Of course I came." I stood near the door, unsure if I should come any closer. The room smelled like antiseptic mixed with some floral cleaner that tried, and failed, to mask it. "I didn't think you would," she said, eyes down on her hands. One had and four stuck in it. I moved to the chair beside her bed. It gave a little squeak when I Saturday. "What happened?" "Some idiot ran a red light. Hit me straight on." She tried to laugh, but it came out more like a wince. "My poor Civic's totaled. But you're okay?" I asked, and I couldn't stop the worry from leaking into my voice. "Concussion. Dislocated shoulder. Some scrapes and bruises. I'll live." She looked right at me then, her eyes clearer than they were that day at the cafe. "I'm sorry they called you. I never updated my emergency contacts." "It's fine." I shifted in the chair, feeling awkward. "Do you want me to call someone? Your mom? Angela?" She shook her head, flinching a little. "Mom's in Florida. Angela's coming later." She hesitated. "Eli stopped by earlier." I stiffened. My jaw clenched on instinct. "Oh. I didn't ask him to," she added quickly. "Angela told him. I didn't want him here." We sat in silence for a while. A nurse came in, cheerful and efficient, checking vitals. Then she was gone, leaving us in that quiet tension again. "Thanks for coming," Jules said softly. "I know you hate me right now." "I don't hate you," I said with a sigh. Just saying it out loud felt like releasing a weight I didn't realize I'd been dragging around. "I'm pissed. I'm hurt. But I don't hate you." She nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. "I got your flowers, by the way. The sunflowers." That stopped me cold. I felt my breath catch. "What?" "After you left," she said, eyes on the window and the afternoon light coming in. "I found them on the porch. I knew they were from you. But you texted me like they were for Eli. You said he loved them." That one still stung. She flinched again, eyes closing. I panicked. I didn't know what to say. "I thought you knew I was with Eli, and you were just trying to be kind." "Kind?" I stood up, the chair scraping loudly. "I came to tell you I loved you." "I know that now," she said, reaching out slightly, wincing from the movement. "I didn't realize it then. Not until Eli told me." "Eli? Why him? Why my brother?" I asked, voice tight. Her whole posture collapsed inward. "He was there. He felt safe. But he wasn't you. What does that even mean?" I was trying, really trying to understand. "It means I was terrified," she said, louder now. Her voice echoed a bit off the walls. "You were my best friend. You meant everything to me. If we tried and it went wrong, I'd lose everything. So, I made the coward's choice. And picked my brother instead," I said, shaking my head, trying to wrap my brain around it. "And that guaranteed you'd lose me anyway." "That makes no sense, Jules." "I know it doesn't." I wasn't thinking clearly. She wiped at her tears with her good hand. "And then it was too late. You found out. You blocked me. And I was stuck in this relationship I never really wanted." I sat back down, suddenly exhausted by the emotional roller coaster. "Why didn't you just break up with him?" I tried. Multiple times. But then he'd talk about how it would ruin his relationship with you forever. And I'd feel guilty. She looked down at the hospital bracelet on her wrist. He knew exactly what to say to make me stay. That ship had already sailed. My voice was flat. I know that now. She reached for my hand. And this time I let her take it. Her fingers were cold against mine. I'm so sorry, Marcus. For everything. I looked at our hands together. It felt right, even after everything. Like pieces of a puzzle that belonged together. I need time, Jules. This is a lot to process. She nodded, squeezing my hand gently. I understand. I stood up, reluctantly letting go. I should go. Let you rest. Will you come back? She looked so vulnerable, asking it. Her eyes wide and uncertain. Yeah, I said after a moment. I'll come back. I visited her in the hospital the next 2 days. We talked about everything except us. Work. Friends. The terrible hospital food. The nurse with the interesting tattoos. It was almost like old times, except for the elephant in the room. She was released on Saturday. Angela picked her up. But Jules asked if I could come over that night to talk. I agreed. But I was nervous. I still didn't know what I wanted. Part of me was still angry. Part of me still loved her. Part of me was terrified of getting hurt again. I spent the day cleaning my apartment, a nervous habit that at least had productive results. When I got to her apartment, Angela let me in, then conveniently remembered she had plans. Jules was on the couch, looking better than she had in the hospital, but still bruised, the colors fading from purple to yellow-green. She was wearing an oversized sweater I recognized as one of her favorites. Hey, she said softly, tucking her legs underneath her. Hey. I sat in the chair across from her, not ready to be too close. The familiar scent of her apartment, vanilla candles, and the lavender detergent she always used brought back a flood of memories. Thanks for coming. She adjusted her sling, wincing slightly. And for visiting me in the hospital. I nodded, noticing the photo album I'd received was on her coffee table. How are you feeling? Better. Still sore. She took a deep breath, her good hand fidgeting with the edge of her sweater. I need to tell you something. Here it comes. I thought, okay. I saw Eli yesterday. He came by to check on me. Her voice was steady, but I could see the nervousness in her eyes. I tensed, preparing for the worst. And I told him I couldn't see him anymore. Not even as friends. Not for a while. She said it firmly, like she'd rehearsed it. I wasn't expecting that. The admission caught me off guard. Why? Because it's not fair to any of us. This weird triangle. She looked at me directly, her gaze unwavering. I chose wrong, Marcus. I've been choosing wrong for months. I don't want to make that mistake again. I didn't know what to say. Part of me was relieved. Part of me was still skeptical. The silence stretched between us, filled only by the soft ticking of the clock on her wall. I found the photo album, I finally said, gesturing to it on the table. She nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. I left it for you. I wanted you to remember. Us. The real us. Not what happened these past few months. That picture at the end, of me on your porch. The image was burned into my memory now. I took it when I saw you pull up, before Eli called me back inside. She looked down, shame coloring her features. I was so happy to see you there. I thought maybe, but then I got scared again. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. Are you still scared? Terrified, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But I'm more scared of losing you forever. We talked for hours after that. Really talked, like we used to. About everything that had happened. About how we felt. About what we wanted. The night deepened around us, the city lights twinkling through her window. By the time I left, it was almost morning. The sky beginning to lighten with the promise of dawn. So, where does this leave us? She asked as I was heading out, standing in her doorway with her good arm wrapped around herself. I turned back to her, taking in the sight of her. Bruised, vulnerable, beautiful. I don't know yet, but I'm willing to find out. She smiled, a real smile this time, reaching her eyes. That's all I'm asking for. I went home, feeling lighter than I had in months. Not fixed, not perfect, but hopeful. Maybe we could find our way back to each other. Maybe we could even find something better. The next day, I got a text from Eli, asking to meet. I almost ignored it, but decided I needed closure there too. We met at a bar downtown, the Sunday afternoon crowd sparse. It was awkward at first, both of us nursing beers and avoiding eye contact. The sports game on the TV, providing background noise. Jules told me you visited her in the hospital, he finally said, picking at the label on his bottle. I nodded, tracing a water ring on the wooden table. She told me you did too. Yeah, he took a long sip of his beer, his Adam's apple bobbing. She also told me she doesn't want to see me anymore. She mentioned that. I kept my voice neutral, watching his reaction. He looked at me directly, his eyes, so similar to mine, searching my face. Are you two getting back together? We were never together in the first place, I reminded him. But I don't know, maybe eventually. He nodded slowly, his shoulders relaxing slightly. I really am sorry, for everything. I studied my brother's face. We'd always been competitive, but this had gone beyond that. This had cut to the core of our relationship. Why did you do it, Eli? Really? He looked ashamed, unable to hold my gaze. I don't know. At first, I just wanted to talk to her about you. Tell her how you felt. But then, I don't know. I guess I wanted to see if I could. If you could what? Steal the girl I loved? The bitterness crept back into my voice. If I could be the one who got her instead of you? Eli stared into his beer, the words hanging heavy between us. You always got everything so easily, friends, grades, jobs. I guess I just wanted to win for once. I was stunned. That admission hit me like a punch to the gut. That's messed up, Eli. I know. He looked genuinely sorry, his usual confidence nowhere to be found. I realized it pretty quick, but by then it was too late. He blocked us both, and Jules, well, she was a mess. Talking about you all the time. I knew I'd made a huge mistake. I didn't know what to say. We finished our beers in silence, the history between us filling the space where words should have been. Do you think we'll ever be okay again? He finally asked, voice uncertain. I sighed, thinking it over. I don't know, Eli. That's gonna take time. He nodded, accepting it. I understand. As I drove home, I thought about everything that had happened, the betrayal, the hurt, the confusion. But also the chance for something new. Something honest. Something real. The sun set, painting the sky orange and pink, a beautiful end to a complicated day. I pulled over and texted Jules. Dinner tomorrow? Her reply came right away. I'd love that. I sent back the time and place. Nothing fancy. Just the Thai spot we used to hit all the time. I spent way too long picking out a shirt, which was dumb since she'd seen me in basically everything I owned over the years. I settled on a blue button-down she once said brought out my eyes. Not that I remembered that specifically or anything. I got to the restaurant 15 minutes early and grabbed our usual table by the window. The waitress, Teresa, recognized me. Where have you been lately? I just shrugged. Busy with work. Easier than explaining the whole mess. Jules showed up right on time, which was a first. She usually ran at least 10 minutes late. Her arm was still in the sling, but she'd put on makeup and done her hair. She looked good. Really good. My heart did that stupid little flip it always did when I saw her. Yeah, me too, I said, fidgeting with my napkin. Suddenly nervous. We talked for hours at her place, but this felt different. More official. We ordered our usual dishes. Pad Thai for her. Green curry for me. Spring rolls to share. The routine was comforting. For a while, we just talked about normal stuff, her accident, my work, that movie she wanted to see. It almost felt like old times. So, she finally said after the food arrived. I've been thinking a lot about everything. I nodded, taking a bite of curry to buy myself a second. Me too. I want to be completely honest with you, she said, putting down her fork. No more half-truths or hiding things. I'd appreciate that. I tried to keep my voice steady, but my stomach was twisted in knots. She took a deep breath. I've been in love with you since we were 16. That summer we went camping with your family, and you stayed up all night with me when I was scared of the noises outside. Remember? I did. She'd been so embarrassed about being scared, but I didn't care. We played cards by flashlight until sunrise. Yeah, I remember. That's when I knew. But I never said anything because I was terrified of ruining our friendship. She pushed her food around her plate. Then in college, when you started dating Samantha, I thought I'd missed my chance. Samantha and I had dated almost a year. She was nice, but there was always something missing. I broke up with her because she wasn't you, I admitted. Really? She nodded. Yeah. No one ever measured up to you. She smiled, a small, sad smile. We really messed this up, didn't we? Spectacularly. I couldn't help but laugh. The whole situation was so absurd from the outside. When Eli showed up that night, I was actually waiting for you. She looked down at her hands. I'd finally worked up the courage to tell you how I felt. I even wrote that note. But then Eli came over instead. I tried to keep the bitterness out of my voice. He said he wanted to talk about you. About us. He told me you'd been in love with me for years but would never make a move. She shook her head. Then he said something that really got to me. He said if we tried and it didn't work out, it would destroy you, that you wouldn't be able to handle losing me as a friend. I frowned. He said that? She nodded. He made it sound like he was protecting you. That by being with him instead I could keep you in my life without risking everything. And you believed him? I couldn't hide the disbelief in my voice. I was scared and confused. And yeah, I believed him because he's your brother. She looked genuinely sorry. It was the biggest mistake of my life. I sat back, trying to process it all. Eli had manipulated both of us. The thought made my blood boil, but also lifted some weight off my shoulders. Jules hadn't just chosen him on a whim. She'd been tricked, just like me. When did you realize what he'd done? I asked. Pretty quickly. But by then, you'd blocked us both, and I didn't know how to fix it. She reached across the table with her good hand. I tried to break up with him so many times, but he always made me feel guilty. Said it would ruin any chance of you forgiving either of us. I hesitantly took her hand. It felt small and warm in mine. That's messed up. I know. I should have been stronger. She squeezed my hand. The accident was actually a weird blessing. Gave me perspective. Life's too short for this bullpoop, you know? I laughed. Classic Jules, finding the silver lining in a car wreck. We finished dinner talking more easily now. The tension had broken, replaced by something that felt a lot like hope. I paid the bill despite her protests, and walked her to her car. The night air was cool. Stars just starting to appear overhead. So, what happens now? She asked, leaning against her car door. I took a deep breath. I think we take it slow. Figure out who we are to each other now. She nodded, looking relieved. I'd like that. I hesitated, then leaned in and kissed her cheek. Good night, Jules. She smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. Good night, Marcus. I watched her drive away, feeling lighter than I had in months. Not fixed, not perfect, but hopeful. The next few weeks were weird. Good weird, but still weird. Jules and I started hanging out again, but everything felt new, different. We went to movies, got coffee, took walks in the park. Simple stuff. But there was this undercurrent of possibility that hadn't been there before. Or maybe it had always been there, and we'd just been ignoring it. Eli tried to call me a few times, but I wasn't ready to talk to him yet. I needed space to figure things out with Jules first. My mom asked about him during our weekly call, and I just said we were taking some time apart. She didn't push it, which I appreciated. About a month after our dinner, Jules invited me over for movie night, just like old times. Her arm was out of the sling now, though she said it still got sore if she used it too much. I brought her favorite ice cream and a bunch of those sour candy worms she always hoarded. I have something for you, she said after we settled on her couch. The movie paused on the opening credits. Oh? I raised an eyebrow, curious. She reached behind a cushion and pulled out a small, wrapped package. It's nothing big. Just something I wanted you to have. I unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a keychain with a small sunflower charm. Simple, but perfect. Jules! To replace the ones you brought that night, she explained, looking nervous. I know it's not the same, but... I leaned over and kissed her. Not on the cheek this time, a real kiss. She froze for a second, then kissed me back, her hand resting on my shoulder. When we pulled apart, we were both smiling like idiots. I've wanted to do that since I was 13, I admitted. She laughed, her eyes bright. Me too. We never did watch the movie. We spent the night talking. Really talking about everything we'd been too scared to say for years. It wasn't all serious. We still made stupid jokes and threw popcorn at each other. Some things never change. But now, there was this new layer. This honesty that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. The next morning, I woke up on her couch, her head on my shoulder. We hadn't done anything beyond kissing. "We're taking it slow, remember?" But waking up next to her felt right in a way nothing else ever had. I carefully moved her head to a pillow and went to make coffee. Her kitchen was exactly as I remembered, organized chaos with too many mugs and not enough actual food. I found the coffee beans where they always were and started the machine. As I looked for clean mugs, I noticed a letter on her counter, half hidden under a magazine. I wouldn't have looked, but my name caught my eye. It was addressed to me, in Jules' handwriting. The envelope was worn like it had been handled a lot. I hesitated, then picked it up. The seal was broken. Inside was a letter dated the day before I showed up with the flowers, the same day as the note I'd found in her junk mail. But this was longer, more detailed. "Marcus," it began. "I've rewritten this letter a dozen times and it never comes out right. So I'm just going to say it. I'm in love with you. I have been for years. I know this might ruin everything between us, but I can't keep pretending anymore. You're my best friend. My favorite person. The one I want to call when anything happens. Good or bad. But you're also so much more than that. I want to know what it's like to be with you. Really be with you. I'm scared, but I'm ready if you are. Love, Jules." I stood there in her kitchen, holding the letter. My heart pounding. She'd written this before everything happened. Before Eli showed up. Before it all went to hell. "I see you found it," Jules said quietly from the doorway. Her hair was messy from sleep. I looked up, the letter still in my hand. "You were going to give this to me?" She nodded, walking over to take the coffee mug I'd filled. "That night, I had it all planned out. I was going to make dinner, give you the letter, and finally tell you how I felt. And then Eli showed up. The pieces were finally falling into place." "Yeah." She took a sip of coffee, watching me over the rim of her mug. "I almost gave it to you anyway. But then he said all those things, and I got scared again." I carefully folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. "Can I keep this?" She looked surprised, then smiled. "Of course." I tucked it into my pocket, then pulled her into a hug. She fit against me perfectly, her head tucked under my chin. We stood like that for a while, just holding each other in her kitchen, as the morning light streamed through the window. "We wasted so much time," she murmured against my chest. I kissed the top of her head. "We have plenty more." That was 6 months ago. Jules and I are officially together now, and it's better than I ever imagined. Not perfect. We still argue about stupid stuff, she still runs late to everything, and I still overthink things. But it's real in a way nothing else has ever been. Eli and I are slowly rebuilding our relationship. It's not easy, and there are still moments I get angry about what he did. But he's my brother, and Jules helped me see that holding on to that anger wasn't hurting anyone but myself. We're not back to where we were, but we're getting there. Last week, Jules and I went back to that Thai restaurant for our 6-month anniversary. I had this whole speech planned about how much she meant to me and how happy I was. But when we sat down, she pulled out a small box and slid it across the table. "What's this?" I asked, surprised. "Open it," she said, looking nervous but excited. Inside was a key, her apartment key, on a chain with a tiny sunflower charm that matched the one she'd given me. "Move in with me," she said. Not a question, but not quite a demand either. "I'm tired of going back and forth between places. I want to wake up with you every morning." I didn't even have to think about it. "Yes. We're moving my stuff in next weekend. My lease is up at the end of the month anyway, and her place is bigger. Plus, she has that balcony where we used to sit and talk for hours. I can already picture us there, watching sunsets together. It's funny how things work out. If you told me a year ago that I'd be here, happy and in love with my best friend, I wouldn't have believed you. Not after everything that happened. But sometimes, the longest roads lead exactly where you're supposed to be. Jules is calling me from the other room. She wants help picking a movie for tonight. Some things never change, and I wouldn't want them to. I'm the happiest I've ever been, and it's all because I finally got the courage to tell her how I felt. Well, technically she told me first. But who's counting? I've gotta go now. My girlfriend needs me to settle a very important debate about whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie. It absolutely is, by the way. Life is good. Really good. And for the first time in a long time, I'm not waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm just here. In it. Living it. With her.